Hi, welcome. If you are the SQL Server or SSIS ETL engineer, try to understand Databricks without buzzword. This series is for you. For many years, SQL Server and SSIS have been backbone for enterprise data engineering. But over the last few years, platforms like Databricks have become increasingly common, especially in large cloud-based and regulated environment. The problem is the most common database tutorials are not designed for SQL and ETL engineers. They are often assume data science background, Python as a first language, or knowledge of Spark internals from day one. That's the reason it motivates me to record the sessions. I want to be very transparent about one thing. I'm not presenting this series as someone who learned database years ago and looking back right now. I actually took 1 week off from the work and to learn database properly to end-to-end perspective at the perspective of a SQL and ETL engineer. As I make progress on my learning, I start recording these videos. That means you will be seeing not just the theory, but real learning and actual environment. I'll be comparing SQL ETL with the Databricks frequently in between these courses. With that being said, let's start what I'm going to cover in this series. In first couple of video, it will be the theory mindset. I will start why Databricks exist, and I'll explain how it compares with SQL Server and SSIS, how Spark actually work at high level. So that is our first part. The second part, after that, we'll start demoing, start looking into Databricks SQL for SQL developers, working with Delta table, reading, writing files, where we'll be creating bronze layer, silver layer, and gold layer. And those all for explanation and with the demo as well. And later section, we'll going deep dive into incremental data load, change data capture, how it works in Databricks versus SSIS or ETL, how we can handle the late arriving data in Databricks. We'll be covering performance tuning or performance and cost awareness the later in this video series. Also, we'll be doing jobs monitoring, security, and governance part as a part of this video series. With that, what we are not going to cover here is we are not going to cover Spark internal deep dive. We are not going to go deep dive. However, we will be surely understand how the Spark things work. And we are not going to deep dive into data science or data analysis perspective. We are not going to do the Python as a first source. We are not going to memorize any of the syntax because AI is here, Jenny is here for Databricks. So we'll utilizing Jenny to convert the SQL code into Databricks SQL and create some other stuff as well. So this series is especially designed for the people who already know the SQL and ETL background. So there is a lot many things to cover. If you see this document, I have learned a lot here. So I will be sharing all of this with you. Let's get started. What is Databricks for SQL and ETL engineer? In this particular piece of video, we will understand about the Databricks. What actually Databricks is. Is the Databricks is database or is Databricks is ETL or both? Those kind of question we'll answer. We'll understand why Databricks. Is there any actual issue going on with SQL and ETL environment? We'll go through that. We also understand what kind of data landscape is changing. We'll go through the little bit of history behind the Databricks, how Databricks is emerged, right? And also the next step we'll be going through Spark, Python, and cluster and etc. About that is directly related to the Databricks platform. Do we need to know them, right? And also at the end of this video, we'll be covering is Databricks is better than Microsoft Fabric, and how we can compare SQL or ETL tool with the Databricks. So those kind of question we'll be answering in this particular piece of video. So stay tuned. So what is Databricks for SQL and ETL engineer, right? So when you say the Databricks is cloud-based software as a service platform. When you say the software as a service, we also know that there is no software installation is required. No server management are required. So software and server management will come with the Databricks. So basically, we need to focus on writing a code. So all our SQL code, all our ETL pipeline to create the reports, we will be doing all in one platform. So this is basically one platform for everything. No installation and upgrade paths headache when we use the Databricks. So it will be again one place, one platform for all of our development and need. Why Databricks is so popular? Is there anything wrong with the traditional SQL and ETL? To answer that question, there is actually nothing actual wrong on traditional SQL and ETL. However, currently the traditional SQL and ETL have been struggling in skill level because the data landscape has been changing. Why? What that mean is basically the traditional SQL ETL struggle skill that because the traditional SQL ETL designed for structured database system, structured data, schemas, predefined schema, and batch processing per couple of million or of record, right? However, right now the data landscape has been rapidly changing. Whenever we say the data landscape, it's about the data type, it's about the data volume, it's about the data speed, it's about the shape of the data. So we usually, these traditional SQL SSIS works for tables, rows, column, well-defined schema. However, in modern data era, we are getting data in a JSON format, XML format, logs, click event. We have to monitor sensor data, API data, and much more. And as far as the volume, the traditional SQL and SSIS or ETL is good for multi-million or some billion record. However, in modern era, we are getting way more than that, those record. With that, it's getting traditional SQL getting very long-running jobs, I/O bottleneck, and very complexity to design the ETL and things like that, and the high cost. However, in modern era, Databricks will resolve those data landscape problem. Let's understand a little bit the history of Databricks, how it came, how it born, basically, right? So in database world, in initial days, we used to run the data, store the data, and process the data through the single machine system. If we need more space, more power, we simply add more CPU, more memory, and more disks, and it works just fine until data become too large. To resolve these two large data issue, there is a new tools was introduced. It's called the Hadoop. So Hadoop is basically distributed data processing system. So how it works is basically in this picture it has instead of single machine system, when we need to proceed the large data set, it will divide in multiple worker, multiple node. So it speed things up, right? It solved the actually scale, but it doesn't solve the speed because it still need to work directly with the hard drive or disk space, right? So to resolve this disk based issue, there is a new tools was introduced called Spark. So Spark is basically in-memory processing. It's the same distributed process, but the distributed process is in memory. This Spark will resolve scale and speed both because of this distributed system versus in-memory process. However, it has another issue to manage all of those. So people personally need to go and set manually everything, which is a little bit complex, and people need to learn so many things behind the scene of to architect this system. To resolve that issue, the same group of people was designed Databricks. So Databricks is again a same distributed system in memory process, but also is a managed platform. So with the Databricks, we didn't have to go inside this infrastructure and then manage manually. So it will handle by Databricks itself. So Databricks is a managed platform which has distributed processing system in memory. So it has it resolved all of those pain for scale, pain for speed, and pain for management. So this is how Databricks was born. So from the single machine system to one super Databricks. With that being said, let's jump to the another topics called Databricks, Azure Databricks, and Microsoft Fabric. The difference between those, which one is better, which one we should choose, and what in high overview. So all of these three are cloud platform, cloud SaaS platform. Out of those three, those two, Azure Databricks and Microsoft Fabric, are Microsoft product versus Databricks is standalone tools. All these three will run on top of the Spark engine and also the Delta Lake, and it all three will have the notebook. Azure Databricks running in natively in Azure. It has Azure feature integrated like Azure Active Directory, Azure Networking, Vault Key, and security control, etc. When people say the Databricks in Azure project, they mostly talk about the Azure Databricks. So Azure Databricks will have more enterprise integration level, like for security and other tools integrated. When we should choose Microsoft Fabric on top of those three things is basically if you are looking for more lift and shift migration, data engineering, SQL analytics, Power BI heavy infrastructure, or governments required, then I think we should go with Microsoft Fabric compared to Databricks. However, if you want to go for a massive Spark workload, streaming real-time data, AI and ML pipeline, multi-cloud strategy, then you should go through the Databricks instead of Microsoft Fabric. So those are high-level differences and comparison between similar three product in between. So which one is the best is basically it depends on need and the decision based on the company or team they made. So these three are equally capable to do the same thing. So there is the comparison between those three stuff right here. All right. As of now, we try to understand about this Databricks. Also, we talked about how Databricks was born, what is the history behind it, why Databricks was needed, why existing traditional SQL SSIS ETL tool is struggling, and so on and so forth. The next episode, we will be deep diving Databricks architecture. We'll be talking about the cluster, driver, executor in detail. So stay tuned for now. Bye for now.